Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
Hello there. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then the Avatar showed up and a bunch of kids went on a journey to defeat the Fire Lord, and I'm here to talk to you about their story. Because today, on this episode of Orange Fruit the Archetypes, I'll be talking about Avatar, The Last Airbender. And if you didn't figure it out already, today I'll be talking about Avatar Aang, The Last Airbender. I'll analyze his personality and character traits, and based entirely on my more or less completely unqualified opinion, assigning him his specific archetype. Let's get started. We begin our journey with the Ruler archetype. Aang was born an air nomad, and while air is the element of freedom, the air temple monks had many strict rules that had to be followed, such as a vegetarian diet and treating all life as sacred, as well as many social rules like shaving their heads and separating the men and the women. Aang often quoted the teachings of the monks in the series, which is why one of his biggest challenges was when he was told by everyone, even his past lives, he had to take the life of the Fire Lord. However, he was not opposed to finding loopholes and exceptions to the rules. He believes that small, harmless rule breaking is okay, especially as long as it doesn't hurt anyone and is for the greater good.
I don't know about this. These clothes belong to somebody. But if it's essential to our survival, then I call the suit.
He also doesn't really have the authoritarian personality that comes with the mindset, and respects people's differences. He's also very humble, a simple monk, but he does use his position as the Avatar to occasionally command authority and social influence. I think he could be a pretty good fit for the Ruler. And another good archetype for him is the Jester. The Jester archetype may in fact be a perfect fit for Aang. The Jester lives in the here and now. They're spontaneous and don't really have a plan of action. And Aang's whole personality and airbending technique and style is all about adapting. One of my favorite episodes is The King of Omashu, where Bumi, Aang's childhood friend, teaches him to think like a mad genius. This is a very good representation of how the Jester thinks and acts. In fact, if I had to rate Bumi, I would say he is definitely the prime example of a Jester. Aang's also not afraid to be in the spotlight. He's an optimist that excels at looking at things from others' point of view. And I also think Aang is more focused on enjoying all the good things life has to offer, and is more so afraid of the final battle. And while he's not overly confident with himself, he is a master of creating ideas, like the air scooter. However, he does have a lot of rules he lives by, such as finding all life sacred, so no killing or eating meat, and meditating often. So again, I think this is a strong archetype for The Last Airbender. Moving on, we have the Everyman. Now, I think this archetype is also going to be a tough one to beat. Aang is the iconic Avatar, but he's not very happy about this. While he is okay using his title to his advantage from time to time, he doesn't really brag about it. One scene that I liked was when Katara and Aang were in the library, and she discovers that in a past life, he was left-handed. The fact that he viewed himself as being left-handed in the past was what made him special. Really kind of tells you a lot about his personality and how he views himself. Then again, the Everyman doesn't really like big, grandiose, or flashy things.
Having a huge festival in your honor is great, but frankly, it's just nice to be appreciated.
They're traditionalists that don't really want to pick fights. The Everyman values small groups of close friends and family. Their Everyman also normally isn't very mature. However, this archetype usually isn't the protagonist as Aang is. But one thing I'd like to point out is that unlike the Everyman, Aang doesn't blame others for his problems, even though when he found out that the Fire Nation was responsible for wiping out his people, he didn't really blame the entire nation for that. In fact, he made lots of friends because he didn't hold a grudge. So again, I think this archetype is definitely a strong contender. Now for the parent in all of us, the caregiver. While Aang and the air nomads practice detaching themselves from earthly connections and attachments, this doesn't mean they still don't try and help and care for others. We know that Aang cares for pretty much every living thing. And when Aang almost lost Momo, let's just say his protective instincts took over.
I'm not losing anyone else out here.
And even though we didn't ever see him as a parent, we know that he has 3 kids, and paid a little too much attention to Tenzin and neglecting Bumi and Kaya. But I think we can all agree that Aang is willing to put his life on the line for all his friends and family. But while he does want what's best for the world, he doesn't really try to force people in one direction. He respects people's differences, and his childlike personality makes me think that this might not be the best archetype for him, but definitely isn't the worst either. Next up is the hero archetype. Now, the show is called Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Aang is definitely the protagonist. Not to mention, he satisfies pretty much all the hero requirements. He defeats the bad guy in an epic battle, saves the day, gets the girl, and is most importantly, selfless. He's naturally optimistic, happy, and relaxed. However, he's not very confrontational like the hero is. While the hero usually accepts violence as a part of overcoming challenges, Aang usually tries to avoid that situation, which is why confronting the Fire Lord was so hard for him. It's because while he can't turn a blind eye to helping others, he prefers to solve problems indirectly and in a roundabout manner. That being said, not only does Aang have a lot of inner strength, but he also gets his drive from helping others, which is a very important aspect of being the hero. He's also very supportive of his friends and would sooner help them with their problems than achieve his own goal. Overall, this is a likely archetype for the young monk. The next archetype we'll be looking at is the Revolutionary. Now, Aang isn't just charged with simply changing the environment. His duty is to the whole world. However, he isn't really one that accepts change or appreciates it. He was devastated when he discovered all the changes to the air temples the mechanics and Teo had made. He's really more of a traditionalist that wants to bring the times back to what they once were. He's also willing to be confrontational and make the changes if he has to. However, he does not have that desire to be respected or especially feared by others that come with this archetype. He's also not a pessimist and is very trusting.
Who knows, maybe they're friendly.
Always the optimist.
And while he acknowledges that he is the point of the spear that will make the change, he never really wanted to be. So if he is the revolutionary, it's probably not by choice. Moving on, we have the Outlaw. Now, I know what you're thinking. Aang is the goody two-shoes, twinkle toes that we all know and love. But let's really look into it. He's had a lot of negative run-ins with authority figures and camp salesmen, and is often seen as rebelling against them. And his negligence in not listening to people who were in positions of authority caused him to miss the first 100 years of war. I don't really blame him for that. And like the Outlaw, Aang is free-minded and free-spirited, difficult to control and restrain. Believe me, Zuko tried. And again, if he thinks it will help, he is perfectly fine breaking the rules if he thinks it is right, and has good consequences. However, the Outlaw believes that they are masters of their own fate, and I don't think this fits Aang. He originally didn't want to be the Avatar, and tried to run from his duties.
Why didn't you tell us you were the Avatar?
Because I never wanted to be.
It wasn't until after he accepted that he was the Avatar that he submitted to his own destiny. Then again, the Outlaw also values the effectiveness of violence, and Aang only uses violence as a last result. Overall, this archetype surprisingly wasn't that bad of a fit. And now we have the Magician. Now, the Magician is known for being a master of the elements around him, and this is literally what Aang spends pretty much the entire show doing. However, because he never wanted to be the Avatar, I feel like he viewed this more of a job than something he actually strived to do. The spiritual side of being an airbender is incredibly intertwined with his personality that he struggled with branching out at times. Yes, he had a natural affinity for waterbending that eventually made Katara jealous, but he really struggled with earthbending, and was afraid to learn how to firebend after the incident where he burned Katara. And while he is the reason that everyone went on the journey in the first place, he's not really the sidekick. Then again, I think he would prefer it if he was, since he tried to avoid taking an active role as the Avatar. I also wonder how much of a transformation Aang makes. Yes, he does experience a lot in 1 year and really grows up, but in terms of his personality, I feel like he is more or less the same. He gains a lot of intellect and experience, but he already had a lot of that wisdom to begin with. Thus, I really don't know if he's the magician or not, so let's keep looking. But this one, I'm a little more confident with. The Sage. The monks taught him well, and he passes on this wisdom to the rest of the team. However, he doesn't show off this wisdom as his own, nor does he avoid seeking advice from others. This scene here is iconic when Iroh says,
Toph thinks you give pretty good advice. And great tea.
The key to both is proper aging.
Aang is both 12 and 112 years old. He's the innocent kid while simultaneously being portrayed as the wise old man. The creators of ATLA really juxtapose his childlike personality with his all-knowing wisdom, which is why I think he's such a likable character, because he jumps back and forth between making stupid decisions, like trying to ride a Nagi, and throwing temper tantrums, to settling tribal disputes and ending world wars. So while he does try to help others achieve their goal, he also acknowledges the fact that he himself needs a guiding hand from time to time. He knows that he is wise, but doesn't look down on others if he thinks they're wrong, making this archetype a safe bet, but not a guarantee. Next is the sweet, naive, and childlike personality, the innocent archetype. Not counting his time in the iceberg, Aang is only 12 years old, and not only that, he has a playful spirit. He uses his iconic airbending techniques for games and tricks, not battle, at least not by choice. And his first thing after coming out of the iceberg was...
Will you go penguin sledding with me?
I also don't think there is a more pure of heart and quick to forgive character in the series. And while he did experience a lot in the year after he emerged, I question how much he did change. Yes, he had to adapt and deal with a lot of the world's problems, including death, hunger, blackmail, conspiracy, war, etc. But in terms of personality, I don't think he really changed. He was still the hopeful and wise optimist we met in the beginning of the series. So while he did experience literally the whole world, I feel like he rushed through those experiences, never giving them time to set in and alter his personality. That, mixed with his moral drive and virtue, makes me think that this archetype is a very fitting one for Aang. Nearing the end here with the Creator archetype. Now, this archetype is all about providing structure through their creations, but Aang's most iconic invention, the air scooter, is primarily fun-based. He was also the first avatar to energy bend, making him an even more iconic avatar than he already was. However, his personality doesn't really fit that of a conformist. He is very humble and isn't self-absorbed or constantly on the hunt for new ideas. Even on Kyoshi Island, where he was incredibly popular, I think that attention spell was quickly taken care of. He likes making things better, but remember he's a traditionalist and often finds things best as they are. And while he did have a fear of not being strong enough to defeat the Fire Lord, this fear never really got in his way of developing his skills, at least not till the very end. So yes, while he does have a few fitting qualities for the Creator, let's not forget about this last one, the Explorer archetype. This archetype is known for being free, like the wind, and Aang is the embodiment of freedom. Even though he seems to struggle with letting go of his earthly attachments, such as Katara and Appa, he spends the entire show traveling all over the world, carrying about his avatar duties. And even though he already knows his destiny, this doesn't stop him from exploring other parts of his life. It's clear that while he is aware of his avatar duties and being the bridge between the human world and the spirit world, he still wants to experience all the good things this world has to offer. With the exception of eating meat, he seems willing to try new things. He's patient and analytical, looking at things from multiple points of view, and ready for adventure at a moment's notice. He's also not quick to judge and willing to listen to the other side of the story before making judgments. He cares for others, and is always willing to help them out. So I think this could be a good fit for him. Let's find out. So I've thought about it a lot, and I truly believe that based entirely on my more or less completely unqualified opinion, Avatar Aang is the Jester archetype. Now, this was almost a tie between the Innocent and the Jester, but I decided to go with the Jester because Aang's personality is creative and spontaneous and adaptable. He can come up with and follow through with a plan on the spot, but he's also capable of making things up as he goes along. And let's not forget that he named his firstborn after Bumi, who was literally the apex Jester, a true mad genius that I think had a substantial influence on him, both as a teacher and a friend. What I would like to point out though is that Aang really did pretty well in all the other archetypes, which is what makes him so likable. He's incredibly well-rounded, which made this show, I think, one of the most popular of its time. So if you think one of the other archetypes is a better fit, be sure to comment down below and explain why. And hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you all for watching, and remember, stay concentrated.